Jeff Dixon, who was CEO of Qantas at the time, put in the first order for the Boeing 787 more than 20 years ago. The last red-tailed Dreamliner has finally arrived in Australia. The 787-9, which is called Snowy River, arrived in Melbourne this morning after a 16-hour trip across the Pacific Ocean from the Boeing plant in Everett, which is 40 kilometers north of Seattle. Ironically, it might be going back to Seattle a lot if Qantas plans to start direct flights to the city in the Pacific Northwest go as planned. It's the last Dreamliner in a fleet of 14, and like the two that came before it, it's spent most of the last 2 years sleeping at a site in Victorville, California that's just for storing planes. This is because they were supposed to be delivered in 2020, but the global pandemic caused the date to be moved back. As Qantas tries to get its foreign capacity back to where it was before the pandemic by March 2024, the Snowy River will be rushed into service. Domino effect. This includes bringing back the last Airbus A380. With the arrival of these super jumbos and the expansion of the 787 fleet, there will be room for more Airbus A330s, which are especially useful on routes from east to west in Australia. Since Qantas' main competitor, Virgin Australia, only has the Boeing 737 and 2 abreast recliners in its fleet, the 121 business class flatbeds on the twin-aisle planes are a key weapon in Qantas' war with Virgin Australia. Alan Joyce, the CEO of Qantas, told Perth radio station 6PR at the beginning of this year that the company planned to use more A330s on east-west lines. Right now, we're the only carrier flying wide-body planes in the east-west route. We've added more in recent months, but because it takes some time for our A380s to get back up and running, we're using our A330 fleet to help expand our international activities. When the A380s go back into service, we'll use the A330s to improve service between the east and west. Qantas will also rent 2 Finnair A330s for its flights between Sydney and Singapore and Sydney and Bangkok. Each of these planes will have Finnair's amazing Air Lounge sofa bed business class seats. Will there be more of these? Starting in August, a Boeing 787 will fly most days of the week between Melbourne and Singapore. Qantas has also said that new 787 lines between Paris, Chicago, and Seattle could be set up. The fact that Qantas already has 14 Dreamliners makes me wonder if it'll keep adding more planes to its fleet. When Qantas and Boeing signed a deal in December 2005, it was for a package of up to 115 jets. The deal included 45 firm orders and 70 options and buy rights for the other 70 planes. In other words, the plan was for 115 jets or more. Even though the 787s were a big part of getting rid of the old and inefficient Boeing 747s, it was once thought that they would also replace the Airbus 330 on domestic lines. Alan Joyce, CEO of Qantas, told Executive Traveler in 2017 that the company's perspective has matured and that even though the 787s and A330s are pretty powerful, they're overspec'd, which means that for domestic flights, the economics don't work. This could change in the next few years, though, because Qantas is already making plans to get rid of its 24 A330s and replace them with newer, mid-sized jets that can fly both local and foreign routes. Vanessa Hudson, Qantas' chief financial officer and soon-to-be CEO, has said that the call for proposals will be sent out in the second half of this year. Airbus is likely to suggest its next-generation A330neo aircraft as a like-for-like replacement, while Boeing will point Qantas in the direction of the 787 Dreamliner. In a formal event, Qantas showed the Australian market its newest Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This is the 8th new plane that the Qantas Group has added to its fleet so far this year as the airline continues to add more foreign flights. 2 A380s that had been stored for a long time have also been brought back, making the total number of new planes in the fleet 10. The plane with the name Snowy River and the official number VHZNN will arrive in Melbourne on Sunday after taking 19 hours to get there from Seattle. The plane went over the Snowy Mountains, which is a nod to the name of the plane. This week, workers from Qantas finished making changes and doing pre-service checks on the plane to get the plane ready for its first commercial trip, which is today from Melbourne to Perth and then to London. These changes included adding footrests, bassinets, and safety equipment made just for Qantas. With the 787, Qantas will be able to add more flights to its foreign network. Starting in late October, there will be 4 flights a week between Sydney, New Zealand, and New York instead of 3. In May of this year, the group announced that it would be adding about 1 million seats to its global network over the next year. This will give people more choices when they move to places in Asia, the United States, and the Pacific. The Qantas Group is in the process of stepping up its fleet renewal program. Over the next few years, on average, a new plane will be added to the fleet every 3 weeks. The new Dreamliner is being delivered at the same time that the program is being stepped up. At the Airbus factory in Mirabel, Canada, the first Airbus A220 plane with 137 seats for Qantas Link is being put together. The first of Airbus' 29 A220 planes is expected to arrive there before the end of the year. These planes are part of Qantas' historic plan to update its fleet, which includes buying up to 299 new planes to add to and replace its narrow-body fleet. Qantas has asked people who live in Australia to help name the new fleet. The theme is Local Wildlife, which will be the basis for the names. More than 4,000 names have already been sent in, and people still have 2 weeks to send in up to 6 names each through the website Qantas.com. The public will have access to a group of candidates so they can vote for the ones they like the best before the final names are made public. More planes mean more flights, which is great for both our customers and our employees, said the airline spokesman. When a new plane comes, it's always exciting for everyone at Qantas, and a lot of people have been working to get Snowy River ready for its first passenger flight to London today. Sydney's where the flight will leave from, and that's just the beginning. We're going to keep stepping up the execution of the biggest fleet renewal program in our company's history. This is the 8th new plane we've added to the Qantas Group network this year, and we're on track to add another 4 in the next 6 months. If you're still watching this video, let's do a little throwback in time. On July 25, 2008, a hole was made in the body of a Qantas Boeing 747-400 while the plane was flying from Hong Kong to Melbourne, Australia. Earlier in the day, the flight stopped in Hong Kong. After that, the widebody had to land at Ninoy Aquino International Airport in the Philippines when it wasn't supposed to. There were 350 people on flight QF30, as well as 16 flight attendants and 3 members of the flying team. After leaving London Heathrow, the service made its first stop at Hong Kong International Airport. On the way back to London Heathrow, it made its second stop at London Heathrow. The plane with the registration number VHOJK left Hong Kong at 9:22, but after 55 minutes of flying at a height of 29,000 feet, the passengers heard a huge crash and then noticed that the pressure in the cabin started to drop. When the quadjet's oxygen masks fell, the flight crew helped the passengers with their own masks. During this time, the plane was high in the air above the South China Sea. On the flight deck, the autopilot stopped working right away and the crew saw several danger signs. As soon as they saw a warning about the cabin pressure, the pilots put on their oxygen masks and started going through the emergency procedures. Those who were on the ship were not hurt in any way, but 4 people said that their oxygen masks didn't open and that they didn't get oxygen until the plane started to drop. Only these people talked about what they saw and did. During the nearly 50-year time that Qantas and Boeing worked together, they had a good working relationship. Over many years, the Queen of the Skies played a big role in helping the Australian airline grow its long-distance position. Thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for more.